All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here on another Friday morning, another installment of our STEM Core Employer Speaker Series. For those of you who, I believe most of you know me at this point, but for those of you who do not, my name is Cheryl Martinez. I am the STEM Program Manager with Growth Sector. Growth Sector is a national nonprofit based out of the Bay Area in California, but working specifically with each of your individual campuses around program implementation. So working closely with your support specialists and your faculty to implement your summer bridge programs, your STEM core packages, or your STEM core programs, I'm sorry, and just really working to provide opportunities for all of you. So very excited to have you all here. And I will let Myra introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're coming from. My name is Myra Perez, and I'm a program coordinator for Growth Sector. You may have known me from meeting students throughout the internship process, during the summer check-ins, or during STEM resume reviews. So very happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Myra. So we're super excited today because we, as you all know, STEM Core and Growth Sector, we work very closely with our national lab partners. So super excited to have our partners from Berkeley National Lab here on today's call to talk to you a little bit more about who they are, what they do. We'll have a chance to hear from some interns and also hearing a little bit more about how you all can get involved in terms of internships at Berkeley National Lab as well. So we will leave time for Q&A at the end of today's call. But if you have burning questions or if something pertinent comes up, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll be sure to make sure that we address it before we end today. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will turn things over to Nakia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nakia Harrell. I am the Internship Program Manager at Berkeley Lab. I have been at the lab for 13 years, and I work closely with the scientists at the lab to walk them through the process of choosing students like yourselves to work on their projects with them. And I'm going to quickly have our staff introduce themselves as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Julio.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julio. I work alongside Nakia and the rest of the WD&E team to bring together these internships. I've been at the lab now for over 5 years. I'm going to pass it over to Brianna.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Brianna Wright. I'm the internship coordinator with WD&E. I work with interns directly on programming once you're in our programs. So hope to be able to meet you all in the future and connect with you then. And I will toss it to Janique.
Good morning, everyone. I am the program assistant for WD&E. I've been with the lab for about almost 4 years now, and it has been my pleasure to work with this excellent team. We look forward to your interest in our programs. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren. I'm a WD&E student assistant, so I'm a current UC Berkeley student for media studies, and I basically help and support the team, whether that's hosting live events, stuff virtually, helping with the website, announcements, articles. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and yeah, thank you.
And now we'll have a presentation by Helen Cordova, which is one of our recent CCI alumni. Helen, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, perfect.
And for our students on the call, CCI stands for Community College Internship as well. So this is one of the specific opportunities that hopefully you all will be applying to through the national labs, specifically Berkeley.
It's nice to meet you all. My name is Helen Cordova. I'm excited to tell you all about my CCI research experience. Before I share the details about my project, I'd like to take a moment to share a little bit about myself. I am an Oakland native. I grew up in Oakland. I love it here, don't plan to leave. I'm also first generation Latina, which means I'm the first in my family to attend college. I'm also studying computer science at Laney College. I'm also in the MESA and STEM core programs, my college. And I am part of an amazing organization called Color Stack. If you're a CS student, you should definitely look into that opportunity. Now, some details about my internship. I participated in the CCI program back in spring of this year. It was a 10-week internship, and it was my first ever internship, so I didn't know what to expect, but I loved it. And during the program, I interned at ABPDU, which stands for the Advanced Biofuel and Bioproduct Process Development Unit, which is essentially the chemical engineering division at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Their office is actually located in Emerville, so I had to report there 5 days a week instead of the main site, and I applied as a college sophomore for anyone wondering. During the program, I had 3 amazing mentors, Dr. Leo, Dr. Singh, and Justin Edigal. Yeah, and Dr. Leo is also here if you want to learn more about the research he does today. Now, what problem did I address? My project. Well, many researchers at the lab often use traditional methods for measuring liquid volume samples, and this can oftentimes be time consuming and prone to human error, especially since they're oftentimes working with dozens of samples at a time. So to address that problem, I developed a Python program that can analyze photos containing liquid samples and measure liquid volumes of said samples. Now, what Python libraries did I use? Well, I mainly use 2 Python libraries: OpenCV library for Python image processing and Skippy for supervised machine learning. How does my program work? Well, my program consists of 2 main stages: the training stage and the prediction stage. And it first starts off by analyzing the training images using the OpenCV library, and during the stage, it also gathers pixel data from images to build a linear regression model. And following that stage, the program builds a model using the Skippy library and analyzes sample images and predicts liquid volume using the model. Here's an example of how my program analyzes some of the training images that are provided by the researchers. And here's an example of some of the results. Here's some photos from a poster session that I had back in spring. I was very nervous for this poster session, but with the help of my mentors, everything went well. I was able to rehearse with them beforehand, so that really helped. And here are some additional photos too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Helen. Next, we'll have our intern mentor panel. So you'll be hearing from Helen, Leah, Duping, and Yang. We have 2 mentors here that will be involved in the panel that actually worked with the students that are presenting today. So I'm going to pass it to Brianna, and she will facilitate the intern mentor panel.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I know Julio will begin to spotlight our panelists. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. That will give Julio an opportunity to also spotlight you. And then I'll ask a couple of questions. So if I can start with our mentors who are here with us today. I see Dupeng. Can you please go ahead and introduce yourself to the group? Share just your name, your role, and what division area you're in would be great.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dupeng Liu. I am a senior process engineer at the ABPDU, and I have been at LBNL for 3 years. 3 more years, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Dupeng. And then I know we have Yang. Yang Ha, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome. We can hear you.
You can or cannot?
We can. Yeah, if you can share your name.
Okay. Sure. My name's Yang Ha. I've been in the lab for 5 years. I started as a postdoc, and now I'm a research scientist. I've taken both CCI and SULI intern students for many years. and I really enjoy the experience. Oh yeah, I'm a joint between ARS and bioscience.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Yang. And then we just heard from Helen. Helen, can you join us back and share your name one more time, what term you did CCI, and that should be good.
Hi everyone, my name is Helen, and just to reiterate, I did the CCI program back in spring of this year.
Perfect. Thanks, Helen. And then Leah, can you also share your name and then what term you did CCI?
Hi, I'm Leah. I did CCI in this past summer, in summer 2024.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to start with a question for our intern alumni, and then I'll ask a question to our mentors next. So first, for our intern alumni, considering the fact that people in our audience today will be applying to internships at Berkeley Lab in the future, what were some of your key takeaways from your time as an intern? What were some key takeaways that you had?
I would say my key takeaways were, one, make sure you reach out to the mentor that you want to work with before you apply, definitely. And two, imposter syndrome is fake. Everyone feels it. Don't be intimidated by all the fancy scientists. Everyone's just a person doing their best. So yeah, don't feel like you don't belong there.
Thanks so much for sharing, Leah. Helen, how about for you?
Yeah, I agree with Leah. Yeah, I also feel like it taught me how to be resilient because there were a lot of challenges that I faced during the program. Yeah, especially when I was developing the Python program. So don't be shy to ask your mentors for help or anyone else in your cohort because that's what they're there for.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. We'll pop back over with another question for y'all in a moment, but let me go ahead and ask our mentors a question. So mentors, from your perspective as a mentor, what are some things that interns can do to make their experience a success while they're interning at the lab? So from your experience, Dupeng, what can interns do to make their experience a success?
Okay, yeah, actually, it's a very good question. Since the CCI is to, research, I mean, for students, they need to do the research in the lab. So I hope students could, stay curious and asking questions and always being proactive. So this is very important. And also, as Helen mentioned, when you start working on some project, you may see some, setbacks. Also, you will enjoy the success. So I wanted the students to be open to learning from both success and setback. And another very important thing is build a strong communication with the mentor. So this will allow them to better understand, allow them better understand your situation, and also will help them adjust the expectation. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dupeng. Yang, how about for you? From your perspective, what can interns do to make their experience a success?
I'm slightly I think it's not just to communicate with your mentor, it's actually the whole team. Like I'm in the Berkeley Center for Structural Biology. We have a team of more than 10 scientists and engineers. Sometimes your mentor can be super busy and may go out for conferences, right? And you actually have a lot of resource to deal with. Actually, not just the people on my team, but everyone you can find on the hallway or in the same level, in the same building, feel free to talk to them. Usually they are like a very kind, and if they know you are from the CCI program, they will be happy to help you out. And your mentors are usually a PhD in a particular area, so they are experts in one field. But if you want to learn something more, like if you are doing some chemistry environment, but you want to learn something about modeling, some coding, then you definitely need to talk to people around. And LBL do have a lot of resources around. Make sure you take advantage of it. That's my comment.
Thank you for sharing that. What I'm hearing as a theme is absolutely communicate with other folks. Make sure that you reach out and connect. There's a lot of resources, and that's one of the beautiful benefits of working at an institution like a national lab. You have access to a lot of people resources, including technical and project resources.
Oh, since you mentioned that, let me add one more. There are actually some other resources like the computing resource, the library, and there are some like training workshops. So when I see this kind of advertisement, I usually just forward them to the students. Like the lab offers a Python training program. I know it's been pretty expensive if you just do them outside, but it's like a free benefit for lab employees. So once you have your lbl.gov email account, you can definitely take that. So
Absolutely.
just make sure to talk to people around.
Thank you so much, Yang. I really appreciate that. We're gonna pop back over to our intern alumni. And one question, just to hear about your experience. What were some of your favorite aspects of working at the lab?
My favorite aspect was the amazing mentorship that was provided during the program. And I actually still stay in touch with my mentors, Dr. Leo knows. Yeah, and I really appreciate that, because when you're working on a research project, you need feedback and you need assistance. And there was a lot of help that I received on my deliverables during the program, like the research report paper that we had to write and the poster that we had to make. And they were very helpful. I was working on those deliverables, and they offered me a lot of constructive criticism. And they also, kind of pushed me to challenge myself. Like I remember while I was interning at ABPDU, Dr. Leo had me present in front of his whole team about my project, which is not something I was like open to at first. And I didn't voice that to him, but I do appreciate the opportunity to have done that, because while I was there, I actually discovered that I needed to work on my presentation skills, and that opportunity allowed me to work on that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks, Helen. Leah, how about for you?
I would say that my favorite part of the internship was just being around so many like-minded people who were excited to talk about what they were doing. I felt like everyone was doing something so cool and was like really excited to talk about it and share it with me. And also wanted to hear about what I was doing and what I was excited about. So that was just like an amazing experience that you can't get a lot of other places, other than that kind of lab environment where, you know, everyone's so passionate about their work. And really interested in science in general and wants to hear about all these cool things. So that was my favorite part.
Thank you. And thank you both for sharing. Again, it's the communication, working on different skills. It sounds like are part of your key takeaways. Some parts can be really challenging, and that ends up being your favorite. Like, I was nervous to reach out. I was nervous to build that science communication presentation skill. And I got some critical feedback, and it actually helped. It became my favorite part. Thank you all for sharing that, because that's absolutely ebb and flow of this experience. We're going to go ahead and switch over to a question for our mentors. I did want to remind our group, I know some folks have joined in, we'll have time for Q&A at the very end. So if you have some questions, think about that, and we'll be able to ask those at the end. For our mentors, can you share a memorable experience from mentoring an intern at Berkeley Lab?
Sure, I can be the first. Yeah, yeah. But mostly I need to mention I was training as a chemical engineer, so my domain actually is different from Helen's learning experience. So for our first first a few weeks, it's actually very challenging. I need to let Helen know what we are doing here. There's a lot of knowledge is that kind of not quite familiar with. So but this experience I think is it's very good. You know, I have to be patient, and also I need to teach people from different areas to understand what they are doing, and then she will use she will use her knowledge and experience to help us solve our problem. And this process, I learned a lot, and I really enjoy that. Also, I thanks Helen's contribution to our projects. Yeah.
Thank you, Dupeng. I appreciate that. Yang?
Yeah, I can echo that. So usually if we are experts, we don't need to hire internships to help us. So like I hired a student called Camille, who was probably in the panel, maybe in the last round. So she's an expert in coding, and we need to do some data labeling. And all I have is our experimental data, and she actually has to figure out a way. So she has to talk to people around. So eventually she built a website of her own. And so her friends and our other intern students, some high school interns, some CCI interns, her friends can just log in and help her to label the data. And we can even do statistics, see like who labeled how many of them. So actually, I think the website for like labeling data alone can be a nice standalone project. Not to mention, she did some like nice work afterwards. So I think it's really, you probably need your own like skill sets. And again, you don't rely on all your mentors to teach you. You have to take advantage of the resources and gain new experience. It's very different than at a school project. It's like the teacher is going to tell you do what you just follow. You probably have to do some like a deep dive for your homework. So yeah, enjoy the life. I think it's both like a painful and fruitful for the interns.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Yang. I saw some head nods from our other panelists as well. What I'm hearing from our mentors and what I want to summarize for the audience too is that our mentors who are staff scientists, staff engineers, are also sharing that some of their most memorable experiences is learning from and with you as interns. So when you apply into these programs, remember you're going to be doing actual work, actual contributions, and utilizing the skill set that you're bringing to the team. So you're highly valuable in these instances. And that's why we're so excited for you all to apply in and be able to join us. And that's a really great segue to this next question that I'm thinking about for our interns, because you are utilizing your skills. Mentors are investing into your learning for your next steps and becoming our future scientists to solve these future problems and current problems. I'm wondering for our interns on the panel, how has this internship at Berkeley Lab impacted you personally, academically, or both? And I know your experience has also been very recent, so it's okay to have that context, but just how has it impacted you since interning recently?
I honestly think that this internship, not to be dramatic, but it really did change my life in a lot of ways. I feel like actually experiencing research made me realize that it was my goal to do research, but actually doing it kind of showed me personally that it was a real possibility. I hadn't fully, I guess, believed in myself that I could do it. So actually doing it, you kind of prove it to yourself, like this is what I'm going to do. I enjoy this, and I'm capable of doing it. And I've kind of brought that with me into kind of other aspects of my life, like in school. Like I started a chapter of like the Society of Physics Students, which I learned about at the internship through my mentors and other interns. So yeah, definitely has changed my perspective a lot. really made me look into the future and at my career, and I guess what my life is going to look like. So yeah, definitely drastically changed my my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree with Leia. It taught me the value of my studies and showed me where CS could take me in the future if I continue pursuing my dreams of becoming a software developer. It also taught me to be like more innovative when addressing real problems in science and in any field. So yeah. And it also inspired me to reapply for CCI this upcoming summer.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Wonderful. And then for our mentors, how has becoming a mentor impacted your career or your perspective on how you approach your work?
Well, I can answer this question. So, well, I think for me, to be a mentor, I think currently already mentor about 7 CCI plus Suli students, and for me, what I learned most is this experience shaped my leadership and also the communication skills. So it helped me to be more patient and empathetic and reflective. So I also, since I have mentored different people from different background, I use different major. So all these things, help me, how to communicate with them, and also, it's brought my perspective on emerging trends of technology. Just as I mentioned, my major is a computer engineering. I was training, a few years ago, but currently we have AI, machine learning, all this new technology. And for this, next generation, the scientists, engineers, they bring their perspective to my lab, and I learned a lot from them. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Dupeng. How about for you, Yang?
Well, I think one important thing is how to just explain your questions, how to explain your problems, and how to dissect them into small mini projects to the interns. So we live in Berkeley lab. We have like tons of experts around us. So usually we love to use those like jargons or those terms to tell our stories. But with these interns, I think they usually don't have a super solid background in those like hardcore courses. So we have to figure out a way to explain our problems or our backgrounds in the plain language, which I believe is a very important skill set for scientists as well. And also, usually we have multiple interns, and of course, but they only have like 10 weeks. So in order for them to work, we really have to dissect the big problem into mini tasks so these students can take over. But at the meantime, I also wish them to know the big picture of the problem, so they know where they are and they know they really contribute to the cutting edge science. That's great experience for me.
Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate hearing how it influences your work as well. Helen, I saw your hand. Did you want to share something?
Yeah, I also wanted to mention that it also reinforced my decision to stay in college. And I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes, you take difficult classes and you're like, should I continue my studies? Should I drop out? Should I just like work? But it really did motivate me to stay in college because a college education can open doors.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely not wild. It is a part of it, being able to have these experiences that reinforce or help us gain perspective on what our trajectory and journey can look like. We have just a couple more minutes, and again, we'll have some Q&A at the very end of the event. But to our panelists, we have a couple more minutes. Are there any final words that you want to make sure to share with the audience? As a reminder, many folks in the audience are folks that may apply to a CCI internship or our internships in the future. So anyone can popcorn in if you'd like to share a final word.
I would say when you start to apply, you want to be very specific about your skill sets. You probably want to list them out because your essay is pretty long, and usually it's hard. It's important for us to find the key information. And you'd love to put your skills like a cell culture or coding something very clearly. So when we are looking for interns, we can easily find a best match.
Thank you, Yang.
Yeah, here I echo Yang's opinion, and beside this, I also want to, for the students who are interested in this program, you should know what you should be clear what do you want from this program. Before you apply, you must tell yourself. You don't need to tell the mentor. Tell yourself what I want to learn. That is very important, and then share this information with your mentor and your mentor teams so they can better help you. This is very important.
What are your personal goals?
Yes,
Thank you
exactly.
for that, Dupeng.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have about one more minute. Leah or Helen, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope you can all apply. It's a great opportunity. It'll give you a taste of what it's like working in the real world. This was my first ever internship, so I didn't know what to expect, but it was great, and I hope you can apply.
Thank you, Helen.
Yeah, just research is really exciting, way different than lab classes you may have taken. It's definitely a different ball game, a lot more exciting. So definitely give it a try.
Thanks so much, Leah. Well, thank you to our panelists. We really appreciate your time, and I will toss it back to Nakia now.
Thank you, Brianna. Now we will have a presentation by Leah Douglas.
Hi, everyone. I will be talking about, again, my CCI internship this last summer, 2024. And I worked with the dark matter group, specifically on the LZ dark matter experiment. But yeah, and I'm from Diablo Valley College, which is a community college in Pleasant Hill. So a little bit about how I kind of got this internship was, it doesn't actually list physics, like a lot of the physics categories that I was interested in on the CCI website. But I didn't really want to do any of the kind of research categories that were listed. They were mostly engineering. So I just reached out to a scientist directly in the dark matter group, specifically the LZ dark matter experiment that I was really interested in. I read some of his papers, didn't understand them completely, which is okay. But I kind of communicated my understanding as best as I could to him, let him know I was excited about it. And he immediately offered me the position. So that is really something that I would suggest to everyone, right? PIs, if you read their papers and maybe give them a little bit of flattery about their work, they are going to be willing to help you and make that funding work. So please do that. Find what you're interested in and reach out to those people. And here are some just pictures from the internship. We went out as a lab a few times, grad students, postdocs, and all. And pictures of me working in the lab with the other interns on my team, and then a little poster session presentation. Okay, about my actual research. So I worked on the LZ dark matter experiment. So for those of you who don't know, dark matter is this spooky, mysterious substance for Halloween that makes up to 90% of the mass in the universe. But we still have no idea what it is. We don't know. We know that it doesn't interact with light. That's why we call it dark matter. So it doesn't interact with the electromagnetic force. One model for dark matter is the WIMP, or weakly interacting massive particle. So it would interact by something called the weak force, which is one of the fundamental forces in physics. And that is kind of the principle for direct detection. We're trying to interact with dark matter through this force here on Earth in our detectors. So the LZ experiment uses a detector like this, using light signals to reconstruct this really weak particle interaction. So my actual project was trying to characterize the fluorescence or delayed photons, right? Fluorescence, for those of you who don't know, that's when a material kind of absorbs light and then re-emits it sometime later. And that kind of messes with the functioning of the detector, right? Because it detects light signals over time to reconstruct the particle interaction. So that limits the kind of lower mass or lower energy particles that it can detect. So that was my project. I basically just, what I tell people is I got paid to flash light at plastic, which is what I did. Mostly during the summer, we flashed an LED at plastic and plotted the photons detected over time to try and kind of see those delayed photons, which would indicate fluorescence. So that's kind of what we saw at first. The plot twist of the summer was, turns out when we did a blank test run, right, with no, none of this material that we were testing, the plastic, none of it in the test chamber, we still saw this fluorescence or the delayed photons, which led us to discover that what we had been measuring was the fluorescence of the LED bulb, like the glass of the LED bulb that we were shining this plastic with. So still up in the air whether the material was actually fluorescent. We didn't figure that out, unfortunately, over the summer. We tried a few different ways, but it just turned out that the fluorescence from the LED that we were actually using was just too dominant, too bright for us to see any fluorescence from the plastic. And yeah, that was my project. If any of you have any questions, you guys can ask me later at the question time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Leah. So now that you all have heard about all these awesome experiences, now we're going to talk about how you can actually apply to the programs. So let's see. Share my screen. And don't worry about trying to jot any of the links down. We'll actually share out this information in the chat, and I'll also share this information with Cheryl as well for her to pass on to all of you before the end of the day. So this is our CCI landing page, which is on our education.lbl.gov page. On the right-hand side, you'll see where it says CCI Home, the key dates, which applications for this summer opens on October the 16th, which is next week. It has your eligibility information, the benefits of the program, which the CCI is paid at $650 per week. You also receive a $3,000 housing supplement to help you with your rent. And if you're traveling from home or a school that's far away, we'll also cover your travel. And then there's a housing page here to help you find housing while you're working at the lab. And then the main page that I really want to point you to is the how to apply page. This is information on all the steps that you have to go through in the application process. I want to say the main things that I always point out on this page is, number one, when you upload your transcripts, please make sure it is a transcript that is dated after the application period opens. I have seen many people be disqualified for submitting an old transcript. So make sure you get a brand new transcript before you submit your application. The next thing would be these two sections right here basically tells you how to look up projects that are being worked on at the lab currently and how to contact those researchers directly. I would urge you to start with this while you're doing your application so that you can mention what your interests are and who you may want to work with in your application. This is the best way to go because you're already making your connection up front and you're letting them know that you're interested in working with them instead of them logging into the application system fishing for an applicant to fit their project. If you make that connection up front, it's a shoo-in. They just go in and select you. So I always tell people, please do these two steps. It's almost like guaranteeing a space for yourself. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is here. There are also application assistant workshops that the Department of Energy offers every term. They haven't listed those for the summer term as of yet, but they do have pre-recorded workshops that they did for the spring term that are here for you to access right now. If you want to take advantage of that and watch those just to see what the do's and don'ts are, because you want to make sure you've done all this work to submit this application. You want to make sure you pass compliance. And I'm going to stop sharing for now, and we're going to take your questions and answers.
Hello, excuse me.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Norma. I'm from LACC. My major is computer science. I am interested in applying for Berkeley Lab, of course, that's why I'm here, but I wanted to ask about the camera. That's what stuck out to me, which is one of the main reasons I was interested in Berkeley Lab. Will we have like if we do get accepted, will we have a chance to work in that sector of Berkeley Lab?
You said the camera?
I believe it's called camera. It's something about advanced mathematics. Um, I'm not sure the entire title of it, but I know it's like, I mean, it's like an abbreviation. So, but I know the A and the M in camera, it stands for advanced mathematics. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Oh, Julio, you're saying that might be a part of advanced light source? Or a nurse? Okay.
I
Yes,
can
those
see
are,
it. Sorry, I can see it on our lab.
yeah, those are divisions that are offered at our lab. So if that's
Okay, so
something that you're interested in, use those the instructions that I just showed you all. I would go there and actually look for projects that involve those things that you're talking about and reach out directly to those mentors that are actually working on those projects.
okay, and excuse me, I came kind of late, but I had seen that I just want to make sure if we are interested in any of those things that are in Berkeley Lab that I seen on the website, we would oh yeah, he put the link in the chat. We would be able to is there like another process we're supposed to go to in order to apply to those certain like lab structures in Berkeley Lab, or would it just be automatic since if we get accepted into the community college?
Yeah, you
Okay.
apply through the community college program.
Okay.
And on that application, so there's 17 national laboratories. There's one application process for all 17 national labs. So on that application, you could select your top 2 lab choices. So if you don't get into Berkeley and say you want to apply to Livermore, you can add that as your second choice.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great questions, Norma. I was about to say I know as our STEM core students go through the CCI application, which note opens on the 16th. So I'll be sharing more information with your support specialist and all of you next week in terms of instructions to apply for CCI. But I think one thing that applicants, and Myra and I hear from students all the time in terms of where they get stuck, is being able, and thank you Nakia for saying this, is being able to identify mentors and the specific projects that they're interested in. So I think it's super helpful that you shared that piece, Nakia. For our interns who are on the call, it might be helpful for our students to hear a little bit more from you in terms of like, how did you do the research? What did the email, like, what did you say in the email to express interest? Just like any insight that you could give in terms of how you actually reached out to mentors, because it seems like that's like the key part that our students need to do. Like Leah, you said that you didn't even see like that project like listed, but you reached out and then you heard back immediately, right? So if you could just share any insight, that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I have been sharing with everyone that I talk to about this, because it's really this unwritten rule that, again, every intern I talk to at my internship reached out directly to their PI, to their mentor. So, right, find what you're interested in, do your homework, do your research about what this person is working on. Look on Google Scholar, or, you know, I don't know, X Archive, and read their papers. Honestly, like, I don't know if I can say this, but you can use ChatGPT to help you understand it. It might not give you a perfect understanding, but it'll give you a start, because some of the papers are not written in the most accessible way to undergrads. But yeah, try to understand it as best you can, and then reach out with that understanding, with that passion. And that's what I wrote in my email, right? I read their papers. I said, you know, I kind of communicated my understanding of his work, and communicated that I was really excited about it. And that I just really, I was passionate. This was my goal in life, was to do this type of work. And that I just really wanted to get on his team, and I was willing to put in a lot of work to do that. So yeah, that would be my advice.
And then also you may reach out to someone, a researcher at the lab that hasn't been a mentor of this program before. If you do come into that roadblock, please just have them send me an email and I can get them started on the mentoring process. Any other questions? Even if you don't want to unmute yourself, you can put it in the chat.
I have a question. I came in a little bit late. I'm wondering, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if there were any, if anyone had mentioned anything around habitat restoration or research on hydrology in particular.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Julio did also share the LBNL directory. And so you can look up folks, find their name, put their name in the LBNL directory, and get their email to ask about those particular areas too.
Yeah, I also wanted to say I do recommend reaching out to researchers at the lab. I didn't personally, but I still heard back from some departments, and that is very uncommon. And yeah, for CCI interns, but you're more likely to get an internship by reaching out. And it's also makes it easier during the CCI selection process for mentors.
And then we have one question in the chat. You are not expected to have coding knowledge at all. This is a learning opportunity for you.
Yeah, like Nakia said, you can use ChatGPT like to ask, hey, how should I approach this problem? And you can implement that.
Okay, let me say something slightly different. I would say don't stick to a particular project or question because you probably don't know what you are going to end up doing. And I would suggest you to a little bit more open to the projects. Like if you are interested in the area of biology or chemistry or coding, I think as long as you're in the big area, you will gain a lot of experience, not to a like a particular like a dark matter something. So that's my suggestion.
Yes, and we've had students that have returned to do a second term and have worked on something totally different. Because sometimes that first term is just basically eye-opening for you, and it gives you more insight into what you actually want to do. So, like they just said, be open. Applying sooner does not increase your chances. The application period runs from October 16th through January the 8th. I would suggest that you apply as early as possible because you need 2 letters of recommendation. And towards the holidays, when everybody's going out on vacation, they tend not to pay attention to their emails. So I would suggest you get it done sooner than later. And we can't accept emailed recommendations. Everything is done in the application system. So I would hate for you guys to lose out on the opportunity because your recommender did not submit their portion of your application.
something I wanted to add. I mentioned imposter syndrome before, but just another kind of reminder that at least my experience was mentors are not expecting that much from undergrads. I mean, they're expecting you obviously to like put in work and be passionate, but they're not expecting you to know everything. And that was something that I really struggled with at first was I had this expectation of myself that everyone else is going to expect me to like be, I don't know, somehow on like this on the level of the grad students, but that's really, really not their expectation of you. So just keep that in mind.
I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question. Is it Bendio?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, say I had a quick question for maybe everybody. I'm coming from an industry that I was media and advertising, but I'm going into computer engineering. So if I'm looking for internships, when it comes to recommendation letters, because I'm new to the field, what recommendations do you guys suggest I could get from? Like, do I get them from my professors? Do I get them from, I don't know, my classmates? Like, again, because I'm coming from a different industry, what do you guys recommend I could get my recommendations from?
Your professors will definitely be a great option.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Would it be recommended, sorry, would it also be recommended to get it from like a STEM professor, like from a CS or a math professor?
That would be awesome. Someone that can actually speak to what you've learned.
Actually, I have another follow-up question. So I'm part of the MESA program, which is a STEM program that helps students. What about getting a recommendation from the director? Because I'm usually really involved in the MESA program. Would that be
Yes.
something? Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
For the people asking about recommendation letters, when you go over to our website, there's more information there about good examples of recommenders. So I know somebody asked about professors, a faculty member is a great example. Somebody mentioned the MESA director. That's somebody who can comment on your general professionalism and your work ethic. So that's also a great example. And lastly, someone who can speak about your role as a student or a leader is also great. So don't think, oh, I need to have 3 professors that really know me and can comment on these things. I know sometimes it's hard to make connections with professors, but here are some different examples of people in your life that can write a great recommendation letter.
Thank you for saying that, Julio. I was just going to note, all the students in this call, you're part of the STEM core program as well. So use your connections within the STEM core. And then just also keeping in mind with faculty, if you haven't been to your faculty's office hours, like you should go, right? Like, so when you're asking for a letter of recommendation, this should not be the first time that you've interfaced with that person. So just sort of keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that you have to have been best friends with your instructor and gone out to coffee with them, but like, did you show up at office hours? Did you like have a conversation? Like those are the key things. Just keeping in mind that applications are going to start opening up. So like, whether it's a CCI application or another opportunity that you are applying to, as a STEM student, you are going to need letters of recommendation. So start keeping that in mind. Just like, hey, who did I connect with in class? Or what speaker was interesting that I could follow up with? Because these are all important connections that you could need in the near future. Raphael, I've seen your hand up for a little bit, so go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering, I know you mentioned that like no specific skills are required to participate in the program, but for someone who like doesn't have as many skills as they want, like they're still developing their resume, how can they be more competitive to like apply and participate in the program?
That's when reaching out to these researchers to let them know that you're very eager to learn comes into place. You should really be making these connections up front so that you do stand out. And not just with one, talk to several.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say having general enthusiasm also in your application and your essays goes a long way. I know that some of the projects today were very computer science focused. I know that there was a question about habitat restoration and that as a potential research area. So I want to point everybody again towards the areas of research link that's in the chat. Even if maybe necessarily there isn't somebody regarding habitat restoration at the lab, there's definitely something in the biosciences for you. Something that Yang mentioned is to not be super tied to a project. Having a wider range of knowledge and having these wider skills, even if at some point you do dive into habitat restoration later in your career, getting this experience firsthand is a great start.
I just also want to put a note for our STEM course students that there are a lot of really marketable like projects and activities that you all are participating in as being a part of the STEM core program. So if you participated in Summer Bridge, highlighting some of those projects that you participated in. I know a lot of like our LA City students are participating with Cal State LA right now for an electrical engineering and a civil engineering project. So really just going back to some of like the things that you're already doing and thinking about like how can I speak to this on a resume or in an upcoming interview. All right. I know that we are scheduled right until 12 o'clock, so we have just under a minute left. So wanted to give a huge round of applause to our guests from Berkeley National Lab today. Thank you so much for your time and your insight, especially to our interns. Congratulations, you're an inspiration to many of our students on the call. Just wanted to take a moment to share some of the upcoming events that we have coming up. So for our STEM course students, keep in mind that on Friday the 18th, our next talk is going to be specifically around how you can all be networking on LinkedIn, brought to you by Gabe O'Malley, an actual like LinkedIn partner. So that will be a good session coming up. So keep an eye out for those reminders coming up. And then we'll continue our employer speaker series in the coming weeks as well. Wanted to one more, Myra. Just highlight that we have STEMcore is on Instagram as well, social media, LinkedIn. We have a podcast, so make sure you're following us. And then please take a minute to complete our feedback survey. I just put the link in the chat for the feedback survey. You can also scan the QR code. Just let us know what you thought about today's session. Literally takes 3 minutes, and everybody who completes it, you're entered into a raffle for a gift card, which we'll be drawing by Monday. So please make sure that you take just a couple minutes to let us know about what you thought about today's session. Appreciate you all. Janique, put the information for connecting with TCI in the chat. I will be sending out more information from today's session, the recording, and then also for the CCI in the next week. So make sure you look out for that as well. But thank you all for your time on a Friday. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.